The X Zone Radio Show is heard on radio broadcast affiliates worldwide, including
AM 580 CFRA in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
WPUL AM 1590 in Daytona Beach, Florida.
KOHI AM 1610 in St. Helens, Oregon.
KHRO AM 1150 in El Paso, Texas. And for more information on becoming a professional broadcast affiliate of the X Zone Radio Show, visit
www.xzbn.net
or call toll-free worldwide
1-800-610-7035.
The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be cruel, you never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I try to forget you, girl, but it's just so hard to do. Every time you do that thing you do.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. For the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. We come to Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. Then our second network kicks in from 2 a.m. Eastern until 6 a.m. Eastern. And then the third network kicks in from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. And then there you go, all over again. If you'd like to give us a call toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Peter Selig, and he is an internationally produced playwright, academic, and medium. And we're going to be talking to Paul about his new book, and it's a great book. It's entitled I Am the Word. It's published by Tarcher Penguin Paperback. It came out just a couple of weeks ago, I believe, on June 24th. It's a work of channeled wisdom that empowers reader to connect with their inner divinity, and heaven knows in these very stressed times that this is exactly what people need, is to empower our inner divinity. Joining us now from New York City is Peter Selig. Peter, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. And
it's Paul. I'm still doing it, right, Paul?
It's okay.
First of all, Paul, thanks very much for joining us. And tell me, how long have you been a medium?
Well, medium's an odd word, and I'm not always 100% comfortable with it, but I've been channeling for about 15 years. And what I do is mediumistic work. I work as a conduit for my guides who come through, to teach and to heal. But it kicked in probably in my early 30s as a skill, and I was pretty surprised when it did. It wasn't anything that I was actually expecting.
Now, what happened to kickstart this ability that you have?
Well, it's an odd story. In 87, I was about a year out of graduate school, And I sort of hit a brick wall, and I went up to my roof one night on this night that I was told was something called the harmonic convergence. And I was told that people would be waking up. So I went up to my roof, and I asked to be woken up. And I had an experience that people later described as sounding like a spontaneous Kundalini awakening or something called a soul awakening. It was a very physical experience, and the next day I started seeing lights around people, and they were little lights that looked like fireflies, and I wasn't sure what was happening, and slowly people started directing me to energy healers to try to get a context for what I was experiencing. So I did that, and I ended up studying healing a few years later, and then I was working as a volunteer at a place that Marianne Williamson had founded in Manhattan called the Manhattan Center for Living. And I found that when I had my hands on people, I began to hear for them. So if I'd had my hand on somebody's heart and I heard the name Jeff, and I wasn't thinking of Jeff, I finally learned to say, "Who's Jeff?" And they started responding.
All right, and now, Paul, I hate to do this, but you and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Sure.
Exonation Paul Selig is our special guest. www.guidedreadings.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Whatever you do, don't go away.
I've been cheated, been mistreated. When will I be loved? I've been pushed down, I've been pushed round. When will I be loved? When I find a new man that I want for mine, always break my heart in two. It happens every time.
And welcome back. Paul Selig is my special guest. Paul had a spiritual experience in 1987 that left him a clairvoyant exonation. Now, as a way to gain a context for what he was beginning to experience, Paul studied a form of energy healing, working with Marianne Williamson's Manhattan Center for the Living and in private practice. He began to hear for his clients, and much of Paul's work is now as a clairaudient, clairvoyant, channel, and empath. Paul has led channeled energy groups now for 15 years, and welcome back, Paul. Paul, do you find more and more people are turning to spirituality in these days, looking for the answers that they just can't seem to get anywhere else?
That's been my experience. I mean, I think when the paradigms that we've lived our lives by stop working, we begin to look elsewhere, and hopefully we begin to look inside, because that's where happiness can be found. So I mean, that was my experience. I actually didn't get into any of this because my life was going so well. I had a list of things I had to have achieved by 25, and I got them all, and I was still really unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's when I really began to break through, and things started to change for me. But I had to be open to looking. So I think people need permission that they can go there. But I agree with you, yes.
Do you think that we all have the ability to be clairaudient, clairvoyant, a channel, and an empath like yourself?
Yeah, I do. I mean, my guides talk about that in the book. I mean, they say really these are the things that come when we're willing to open up to them, and a lot of what they talk about is giving permission, that really our natural state is a tuning fork for the higher frequencies, for our own higher selves, for the divine, whatever you want to call it, and that embodying that is part of what we came here for, and as we're willing to do that, we get the gifts that come along with that. I mean, I was raised pretty much an atheist, so I didn't believe in much of anything as a kid, and I needed an experience of seeing things or hearing things or feeling energy in order to trust that there was more to my world than the material. So the work that I do with people and the work that my guides do seems to be pretty physically based, only in that people can have a physical experience of the frequency when they work. So, yeah, I do think we all have the ability to do it. I think we have to ask for it, and then I think we have to be willing to develop it.
What was it like the very first time that you worked with your guides? How did you feel working with a spiritual entity that had not existed in your realm of reality before?
That's a really good question. I mean, because my training was as an energy healer, I didn't know what it was. I mean, I wasn't trained as a medium or as a channel. These things really happened. Mm-hmm. I think as a result of my doing the other work. But the first time I started hearing a voice, I didn't know what to do with it. And essentially I ignored it. And I was working with a client once, and he was a malpractice attorney. I kept getting worried the guy would fall off my table and sue me. So, but during the session I kept hearing broke back, and I didn't say anything. And the guy got off the table and he said, I was really surprised you didn't talk about my broken back. And I learned at that point that I had to trust the information that was coming through. But it really is about developing a relationship, I think, with the energy, at least it has been for me, and trusting it, because initially I was kind of spooked. It wasn't part of my daily life. Now I walk around with it all the time.
Where do your guides get the information that you relate to those who come to seek your guidance and your help?
I don't know. I mean, it's not a question I really ask them. I mean, when I work with clients, I work as a psychic, and I work as an empath, and I work as a channel. And they're really sort of different skills. So when I'm sitting opposite somebody and they want to know whether their boyfriend is going to leave them, what I have the ability now to do is to tune into the boyfriend and hear what the boyfriend is saying, and sort of move into his energy system. And then I can get commentary from my guides. So I'm assuming that my guides are getting the information, at a higher level or from the energy field of the client. When they teach, which is a whole different thing, and I Am the Word is their teaching. It's not a book that I wrote. The whole thing was really dictated into a CD recorder over the course of 2 weeks. They're working with higher wisdom, so they're teachers. They're not your dead Uncle Fred. Right. They're really coming through for this work.
Now, how many different guides do you have, and are these the guides that you've had from day one when you discovered your abilities?
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I used to be very hung up when I was new at this on names and being able to sort of identify them. And what they say now is they call themselves the Word. They say, we are the Word, and they come through as a collective. So it's a collective energy that I hear. Occasionally there's a personality that will emerge. In the book, there's a couple of chapters that sort of have a distinct voice to them that I believe was written by one guide. But for the most part, I experience it as a we, not as an I. So, and I don't work with names right now intentionally because I would get caught up in that, in a personality way. And this really isn't about that kind of work. This is really about service and not, are you channeling so-and-so or so-and-so or so-and-so?
When people come to see you for your advice and to communicate with your guides, what type of questions do they generally ask you? What are they seeking?
Well, it really depends on the person and where they're at. I mean, I think people come to me, all of my clientele has been through referral. And I think people come to me for different reasons. So there are people that come to me strictly for business readings, and they want to know how their board of directors is going to vote. But most people actually are here for the larger work, which is really what is it going to take them to evolve as themselves. And that's what my guide's going to address. I mean, they'll support the practical questions about somebody's, physical life, and those are important questions. But I think that they're also there to support people in their own spiritual growth. So I have a group that meets every week, and my guides teach in the group, and the focus is all spiritual growth or psychic development or spiritual evolution, I guess is a better term. And then, the psychic work or the empathic work can be a little more grounded in the day-to-day. But it's a mix.
Now, do you find that your guides are free and forthcoming with the information to those who are seeking their advice through you? And do you ever feel as if you're being used?
I don't feel as if I'm being used. I feel as if I'm being taught. I feel the working with the energy feels really wonderful. Really? I mean, I have to say that, when I was first doing this, and I was first running groups, it wasn't because I was hearing a channeled voice as much as I wanted to work with the energy that would come through, which was extremely palatable and, vibrant. It's like being, plugged into this really the most beautiful electricity you can imagine. So I was doing it for that, and the language followed, and really has increased. That ability has increased a lot in the last 5 years or so, which is what has allowed this other stuff to happen. But I get a big booster shot from it. I get a big booster shot in terms of how I feel. I always feel like I've been swimming in the ocean.
Really?
After I read. I feel clean and healed. So it supports me too.
Is there ever the possibility that a negative spirit may come through? Because the way I understand it, the spiritual side sees an opening, and they know that this opening represents the conduit that you, a channel, provide. So how do you protect yourself from negative entities coming through?
I do a prayer protection before I work. It's standard practice for me. I mean, my guides are very big on that. They talk about it in the book, too. I mean, they say if you're going to do this work, it's really the equivalent of, of having an umbrella in the rain. I mean, it's not that, there's stuff there. You might as well just be practical. So I understand. My experience has been that if there's ever any energy that feels bad or information that carries with it fear or is provocative in a fearful way, that's not to be trusted. And, I feel like I'm very fortunate in that I seem to have a good group of folks working with me, that are protecting me from that. So, but I do think that there's stuff out there. I think that we can pick it up, and I think that they can, make a nice mess of things once in a while.
How do spiritual guides and those that you work with choose you?
That's a really good question. I really don't know. I think about this sometimes. I had a friend once who said to me, "You've been chosen," and I thought he was out of his mind.
Yeah.
I think that in my case, I got to a place where I was really willing to allow whatever needed to happen to happen. It wasn't because I was so spiritual. It wasn't because I was anything other. But I had an experience, I had a few experiences in the late 80s, early 90s that were really life-transforming. And one of them was, having a sense, and it lasted for about 2 days at the end of a really rotten, long stretch of being depressed, of feeling as if I was one with everything. And everybody was where they should be. And there's no way to describe it. You just know it, and you're in that feeling. And it really was life-changing for me. And when I had that experience, it was very, very clear to me that that's where I wanted to be. I was willing to go there, whatever it took. I was willing to go all the way. And I can't say that I live with that every day, but I think it really did create the opening. So a lot of it's willingness, or has been willingness. Have I been chosen? I think, and I've been told by other people, that there's a lot of preparation that goes into doing this work, and what we've done in past lives actually can support our abilities in future lives. And I think that I may have been at this much longer than I know, but in terms of this lifetime, it's really just happened, and I don't feel that special, nor do I want to.
All right, Paul, please stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation Paul Selig is our special guest. He's the author of I Am the Word. It's available now in fine bookstores everywhere, as well as online. His website is www.guidedreadings.com. That's www.guidedreadings.com. Paul and I will return on the other side of the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, XZBN Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and Ustream. You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network. X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio,
Euro High Definition Radio,
and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035.
Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com,
And our website,
www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Why do I feel like I'm losing control?
And welcome back to the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone, our guest is Paul Selig. He is the author of I Am the Word. And his website is www.guidedreadings.com. Paul, how do you deal with skepticism, and why is skepticism important?
I think it's healthy. I mean, I have a lot of it too. How do I deal with it? You know, I have a weird background. I mean, I wasn't raised with a lot of this stuff. I there were books in the house that I read when I was a kid, but I was fairly skeptical. And for me, I had to have an experience that was real to me. And I actually kind of feel the same way. So back when I was first exploring this stuff, I had no patience for somebody waving a crystal over my head and telling me that I was healed. You know, I was sort of a rock and roll kid.
Yeah.
And how I deal with it now is with respect. I think it's a shame when people close the door in an arrogant way, but I think some investigation is useful. And, you know, I'm the first one to tell somebody that if something doesn't feel good, don't go with it. You know, just because somebody tells you something. You know, I often have people that come to me for readings and they say, you know, what does Geraldine say? And I go, who's Geraldine? And they go, well, that's my spirit guide. And I go, well, I'm not hearing anything about a Geraldine, but it turns out somebody else told them that they had a guide named Geraldine. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But that's real. I think it's much more powerful, frankly, when somebody is able to own their own information. You know, and that's really, I think, what the book tries to do, is give people their own experience of this. And I think that's a responsibility. But I think some skepticism is necessary.
So tell me, Paul, why did you write your book entitled I Am the Word?
Well, I mean, the first thing is I didn't write it. My name is on the cover, but it's a channeled book. What happened was I'd been doing groups for a long time.
Yes.
And one night, my guide said to somebody else in the group that I, Paul, wouldn't really believe the stuff that was coming through me until I saw it written down. And I was, again, more into this for the energy work than the information, but the following week I recorded the session and I wrote up the lecture afterwards, and it was 5 pages. It was really intelligent. It required no editing. And I kept doing it every week, and I was fascinated that this was coming. And what happened was I was working on a show. I got fired from the project out of the blue. I went to bed, and a woman that I know in Berkeley called me up and said, well, maybe this is a good time for you to write a memoir about how you evolved as a clairaudient. And my guides piped in, and they said, actually, you know, we have a book to write. And if you'll, you know, get on the phone in 2 days, we'll do it in 2 weeks. So the entire book was channeled verbally into a CD recorder over the course of 2 weeks with, me in a chair with my dog, the speakerphone on, and a woman in Berkeley, California, taking copious notes of every session. But the book was done in 2.5 weeks of speaking. So there really was no writing involved. So all I had to do was say yes and be present for the experience. And every day, I didn't know if anything was going to happen. I was as shocked as anybody, that a whole book emerged. It's about 300 pages, and it required no editing.
Wow.
What the book is really is the transcript of those sessions. The only things that we cut were information that was personal to the woman on the phone, because occasionally she would ask some personal questions, and occasional interruptions like, there's somebody banging on the front door, I have to stop. And we cut those, but everything else is there.
Paul, how do you balance your academic career along with your channeling work?
Well, that's a good question. Carefully in some ways, but I'm very fortunate. I've really integrated this stuff. And, I think it's widely understood that as a teacher, I'm very intuitive, and that really is the psychic ability coming into play. And I actually love teaching. I've been a college teacher for many, many years. I run a master's in fine arts program at Goddard College in Vermont, where it's widely known that I do this. And, and in fact, I'll, do a healing circle at every residency twice a year. I'll do a little group. But people have been very supportive, but I think it's because I think they trust me, and also I don't really lead with this. It's part of who I am. It's an aspect of who I am, but I'm not wandering around in a turban, or, lugging a crystal ball in my suitcase. I'm Paul, who happens to have this ability and likes to share it with people. And now is, much to my surprise, channeling whole books. I mean, they've since come through with a couple more since the first one. So I think they're just happy to have the conduit.
So you don't use a crystal ball, huh? What a letdown.
Well, I have one. I just don't know how to use it. I think they're wonderful. I'd love to learn to scry. I just haven't taken the time. It's a good skill.
Now, I understand that you believe that we are all divine and that the controversy, and there seems to be a controversy at the heart of this concept, and I was wondering if you could share it with us.
Well, I don't know what controversy you're referring to. I mean, I think that within every man and woman and every living thing is the spark of the Creator, whatever you want to call it. I think there's a name for it in every religion, but I think it's a real thing. And I think according to my guides, what that aspect of the self is, whatever you name it, is seeking realization. It's the part of God within man that seeks to become realized. And I think it's our responsibility to do that. I mean, I think this is, thousands of years old. This isn't new stuff. So, I mean, if you want to explain the controversy, I might comment on it. Go on.
No, just one of the notes from your publicist says his belief that we are all divine and the controversy at the heart of this concept.
Well, I think what the publicist may be talking about quite simply is that there's something sort of inherently Gnostic at the center of this, which is really the belief that man can evolve, and as my guides say in the book, as their Christed self. I mean, that's the terminology they use, that man can become, or humankind can become, and to evolve as this. And I think that is controversial to people that believe that this is not allowed to be accessed, or that you have to go through somebody else in order to have your experience of the divine.
But if
my guys are pretty much saying you go within.
Exactly,
Sorry?
because if you look at the Bible and in Genesis it says, "And God said, let us create man in our image." Well, doesn't that give us mortals the authority to do exactly what many are saying that we can't do? Yes,
that's what I believe, and I think it's in the New Testament as well.
Yeah.
I believe Jesus said something to the effect of, greater works than this you will do. It's the Father that is within that does the work. It's God within. So it's not Paul as a personality that's doing any of this work. It's spirit, and I'm simply a conduit. And I actually believe that we all have the ability to be realized. I don't consider myself at all a realized being. I'm somebody who's on a path. but I believe that's the path. And I do think that that's available to all of us. And I actually think it's a big lie that we're not allowed to go there. And I think that's a way that we've been controlled for a very long time.
And I think the control it falls right on the shoulders of established religions and established theologies as a manner of controlling the masses.
I think that there's truth to that. I think the guides talk about this in the book, but they also talk respectfully about religion in that for many people it is the way through the door. But there are all these things that have been constructed around it that are controlling that really have, I think, nothing to do necessarily with the inherent message, that God is within, and or the Christ or whatever you want to call it, and is available to us. So I do agree with you, but I do think I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
I understand, and I fully respect that. What has been the most pivotal part of your new journey, and do you think that the journey that you're on was predestined?
I'll be honest with you. When I was about 5, I had an experience and it was an out-of-body experience. I remember it vividly, of something that I believed was angelic hovering over my bed, talking to me and giving me instruction. And I remember watching this whole thing while floating on the ceiling out of my body, looking down on myself. And most of my life, I've wondered what had been said. And there were a few experiences as a kid that make me wonder. I had a real belief when I was a child that thoughts were things and thoughts could create. And it was very, very OCD. And now, we're in the age of, The Secret, and all of these teachings are coming through saying something very, very similar. But do I think I was chosen or destined for this? Not necessarily. I think the most pivotal thing for me finally, and it's really very recently, is just allowing this to be what it is and letting myself be more public with it. Because really I was, hiding behind the stats, as it were, as a college teacher. I mean, it wasn't common knowledge, and, now it is. And that was a very big step for me to take. And I think it was, my concern that people wouldn't be receptive, and frankly, that's not my business anymore. People can have their own experience. Hopefully they'll read the book and have a positive experience with it. I think it's a very potent teaching.
And of course, the name of the book
if I were to hide it, it wouldn't be good.
And of course, the name of the book is I Am the Word. Paul's website is www.guidedreadings.com. Paul, what have your guides told you that the purpose of our existence in this lifetime is all about?
Well, I'm just hearing them now, and they're saying to become what we are in truth. They're saying which is a manifestation of the Christ consciousness embodied. And they're saying period. When I hear, I tend to mutter it to myself and repeat it, so you may hear that.
Yes.
But that's really it. It's to evolve. It's to evolve as ourselves in a higher consciousness, as a higher consciousness. And they would call that love, I believe. And I think they must think it's possible, because they're certainly talking enough about it. And they're talking about this really in terms of a much larger paradigm shift that's happening. And they're very clear that this isn't just happening for people who can afford to buy a copy of the book. They actually say that this message is really being transmitted, globally through a lot of different sources to reach as many people. But that it really is this time. This is the time when this can happen. That there really is a level of frequency that's available to facilitate a larger kind of awakening to people's divine selves.
What is the difference between a spirit guide and an angel?
I've never asked. It's interesting because my guides come with a language at times which seems to have links to theosophy. When they talk, in terms of Christ consciousness and things like that. And I really not read Blavatsky or any of those writers.
Right.
And I'm blanking on your question. Guides and angels. I think it's the level of evolution. Frankly, I think it's the level of evolution of the spirit. I mean, I think, there are people that walk around, with their Aunt Helen as their spirit guide. I'm sure, in some way, and that she's supporting somebody's growth. That's not how I'm working now. I mean, my guides are really coming through to teach, and they call themselves teachers. teachers and missionaries and masters. I mean, those are some of the names they've given themselves. But I think, from what little I understand, angels live in the angelic realm, and that there's different stages of growth and awareness. But that's the best I can answer it. I'm not an angel expert.
No, but you are an honest man who gave me an honest answer, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Paul, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exo Nation, our special guest this hour is Paul Selig. And he had a spiritual experience in 1987 that changed his life and left him clairvoyant. He's got a brand new book that was just published on June the 24th by Penguin Paperbacks. The name of the book is I Am the Word. Now, if you'd like more information, Paul's website is www.guidedreadings.com. That's www.guidedreadings.com. We've got to take a little commercial break here in the X Zone, but when we come back, we'll wrap up this hour with Paul Selig. Once again, he's the author of I Am the Word. www.guidedreadings.com. And I'd like to thank Lauren Reddy at Penguin Publicity for helping make this interview possible. 1-800-610-7035, toll-free worldwide. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. Our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Hold myself down. 'Cause I just can't wait till you write me your
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find
Well, I think if it's over 100 degrees, no matter what city you live in, you'd have a hard time sleeping. But our special guest this hour, Paul Selig, who is the author of I Am the Word, is in New York City. His website is www.guidedreadings.com. Paul, as I said to you during the commercial break, it's been a great pleasure having you with us here. I wish you much success. I love the fact that you're helping people using spirit as letting spirit use you to enlighten people who come to you for their guidance. Having said that, is there anything special that your spirit guides would like you to share with the members of the X Zone Nation, or with myself for that matter?
Well, let me ask. Well, what they're saying, actually, they're saying trust themselves as the Word. Mm-hmm. They're saying as the divine self that you are intended to be. They're saying that is our method, and that is your gift. If you choose it, they're saying it's available to you. It's here. It's here. They're saying the moment you ask for it, and they're saying blessings. So that's what they have to say.
And blessings to the spirits for sharing that message with us, Paul. Any more books in the offing?
Well, they channeled this one in a couple of weeks, and in this last summer, they actually dictated the second book. They say it's a trilogy in about a month. That's called The Book of Love and Creation. It's still being proofed. Nobody's, it's not been handed over yet to my editor. But and then there's a compilation of lectures, many of which are actually on the website if people are interested. There's about a year's worth of lectures that are posted that I'm hoping is also a book. And those are the lectures that my guide gives, the group that meets here every week.
Now
I'm about 4 months behind in posting, but there's a lot of them there.
We've got about a minute left, Paul, and I'd just like to touch briefly on an upcoming documentary film entitled Authors of the Impossible. Tell us about it quickly.
You know, there's not a lot for me to say. I was invited to the Esalen Institute last summer. Jeff Kripal, who was the man who was running the conference there, is the author of a wonderful book called Authors of the Impossible. And I was fortunate to be interviewed after my session at Esalen. And those clips, if people are interested, are available on Facebook. There's a guided readings page on Facebook. And there's about 20 minutes worth of video, some of which is channeled, where my guides talk about the book and the evolution of the book. But I'm not sure where that film is in terms of its production right now. I think they're still shooting.
Well, Paul, it's been a great hour with you. I have thoroughly enjoyed our chat. I wish you much success. And again, congratulations on the wonderful work that you're doing and the many lives that you touch and enrich because of your very special gift.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and thank you for having me.
It's been my great pleasure. Exonation Paul Selig has been my guest this hour. He is the author of I Am the Word. His website is www.guidedreadings.com. And once again, I'd like to thank Lauren Reddy from Tarcher Penguin Publicity for helping make this interview possible. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and on Ustream.